Hi, Deborah Ann here, and this video I'm going to be doing a review for Daredevil Season 2. Marvel's Daredevil Season 2 is available to watch now on Netflix. Continuing from where Season 1 left off, it follows Matt Murdock, Daredevil, a blind lawyer by day, vigilante by night, crossing paths with the deadly Frank Castle, Punisher, along with the return of an old girlfriend, Elektra. First off, before I get into the actual review itself, I will say, spoiler warning, I'm not going to be talking about any massive major spoilers, but I'm going to be touching on some minor spoilers here and there, so in case you haven't watched Daredevil Season 2 yet, then just to let you know, I will be touching on some spoilers here and there. But then again, it has been out for like 3 weeks now, so I'm pretty sure most people have already watched the entire season. Sorry it took me a little bit longer to get around to watching it. I wasn't able to binge watch the entire season one year. I didn't really get the chance or the time to, but I have watched the whole season now, so yeah. Let's talk about it. I'm going to go throughout the season, so like from beginning to end. I'm not going to be covering every single individual episode or talking about every single episode, but I'm going to go from beginning to end, so starting from the beginning of the season, going through to the end of the season. And first up, positives. What I liked straight away as soon as it started was that it got straight back into it, no messing around. We're there seeing Daredevil in action in his new suit, like right off the bat, and I really like that because as much as I loved Season 1, I thought it was great, you know, almost like flawless. It was essentially, the entire season was Matt's kind of origin into Daredevil, you know. We don't really see him in the suit, in the actual Daredevil suit to the very last episode, which I didn't mind because it was a great kind of journey and development of the character across the season. But at the same time, it was, like I said, just a really long, extended origin story that was developing throughout the season, whereas this one, you're able to jump straight back into it and get into the action straight away, right off the bat, and I really like that. And there was no messing around, just jumped straight into it there, and we were just right into the action from the get-go, and I absolutely love that. Also, another thing that I really liked, which came quite early on, was the introduction of Punisher. You know, it came quite early on in the season, which I really liked, because again, with Season 1 with Wilson Fisk, it was kind of a long build-up to the eventual confrontation between him and Daredevil right at the very end of the season, really. Whereas this one, Punisher comes in almost straight away, and we get a confrontation between him and Daredevil really early on in the season, which I really like, because I think the whole Daredevil Wilson Fisk competition worked well for Season 1, but I decided to do something different with this season. I had the villain come in, make an impact much sooner, and they were able to cross paths much earlier on in the season, which I liked, and I thought it worked really well. The introduction of Punisher, it's such a great introduction. This entire room of people all just get gunned down, and I was thinking, oh, that is definitely going to be the Punisher, because you don't see who does it, and then everyone's talking about how it was an army of like ministry grade kind of like soldiers, and I was like, oh, okay, so maybe it was a group of people, maybe it was this like army, and everyone keeps saying it, so it eventually convinced me in the end. And then when it is actually eventually revealed that it was just one guy, I was like, oh yes, it was the Punisher. I was like, I knew it. Even though it could look like it was just a whole squadron of people like firing at this room, it was actually just the Punisher on his own. It was just the one guy, and I think that was just a great way to introduce him in a really kind of badass, awesome way for him to make an impact in this season, a great way to introduce him. So like I said, it's not long until he eventually crosses paths with Daredevil and clashes with him, and when that happens, it is great. I'll talk a little bit about that later on. Also, speaking of the Punisher, I have to mention Jon Bernthal as the Punisher. He was absolutely amazing in this role. He's so totally convincing and believable. You genuinely believe he is the character he's playing because of just his remarkable performance. We have seen the Punisher before in other films and stuff, but this version is not only true to the comics, it has such an honest, genuine performance behind it from Jon Bernthal, and the character is given compelling and understandable reasons and motivations as to why he's doing what he's doing, and as a result we're able to understand where he's coming from, and in some occasions even able to sympathise with him. And I think that makes him just such a great villain, because yes, he technically is a villain, but in a way he's more of an anti-hero, because he's not really a bad guy. He is the one that's taking out the bad guys. He is punishing the bad guys. So even though he's kind of doing the same thing as what they're doing, he's not hurting or harming the innocent. He's taking out the bad ones. So it's a great kind of a dilemma there, because he isn't doing anything bad per se, in the sense that he's targeting the bad people, but then at the same time he's kind of going about it the same way they are. So, you know, it's quite an interesting argument there. Also, this brings me on to one of my biggest positives that I can give to this season, and that is just the back and forth and the conflict between Daredevil and Punisher. Not just the physical confrontations, but the psychological ones as well. What really surprised me about the conflict between Daredevil and Punisher in this series was how the dialogue exchanges between the two of them over their differences was so riveting to watch. I found myself getting so emotionally invested and immersed in their arguments. It was handled so brilliantly by both the writers and the actors, and credit to them for making these scenes so unexpectedly, incredibly powerful to watch. I was sucked in and totally immersed and engaged with the debate in a way that I never thought I would. It was so fantastic, and some of the best dialogue-centric scenes I've ever seen in comic book related media, I would say. Also, coming off from talking about the whole Daredevil-Punisher conflict, one of the biggest positives I can give this season is how they integrated and explored the real-world implications of such a situation and the whole philosophical debate surrounding it. It was such an unexpected highlight. It was handled so well and added a whole other layer to the already deliciously textured drama. I found myself getting so fascinated by this debate and surprised about how they were able to turn this situation and conflict into such a thought-provoking moral dilemma. I thought it was just great. Of course, also, I have to mention, there's no surprise that the action sequences in this season are undeniably incredible, and I definitely stand out. The stairwell fight with the dogs from hell at the climax of the amazing episode 3, possibly the best episode of the show so far. The Punisher retaliation fight when he breaks free from incarceration, just takes all these guys out in episode 4, and again, another terrific episode. It goes without saying also, Charlie Cox is fantastic as Matt Murdock and Daredevil. Like the Punisher, he just made this role his own, and it's just difficult to imagine anyone else ever playing this role. He brings a grounded, real-world kind of edge to the character, and as a result, we can relate to him, and root for him on his journey, and despite insurmountable obstacles in his path, he never stops trying, he never gives up, and we admire and respect that with his character, his extraordinary strength of character and his unwillingness to break no matter how tough the situation he finds himself in. Elodie Yung, one of the new members to the cast, was also a welcome addition, making her debut in the show as Elektra, and I would say that she, like Jon Bernthal's Punisher, is the definitive version of the character on screen so far. She brought like a sexy and deadly alluring charm and feistiness to the character, and her relationship with Matt and the complications she causes in his life was an unexpected but interesting direction they chose to focus a surprising amount of attention on. But despite this, I thought her performance was great, and I liked her interactions with Matt, and her presence in the show was a welcome addition for me. I also thought that both Deborah Ann Woll and Elden Henson, both returning from season 1, were both great in their respective roles as Karen Page and Foggy Nelson. Karen Page got a lot more to do this time round. She played an active part in the whole investigative side of uncovering certain secrets and mysteries, and I really liked that because her role was expanded and she was given more to do without it being unbelievable or unrealistic. Likewise, Foggy was also great, and like Karen, his role was expanded and he played a much bigger part in the lawyer side of things. There are many occasions when he uses his skills to diffuse tensions and drama by just speaking, and it showed us as the audience that Foggy isn't just comic relief, he isn't just a disposable side character, he plays an important and indispensable part, and these speeches that he has showed us how indispensable he really is. It's also worth mentioning that Vincent D'Onofrio makes a welcome, albeit brief, return as Wilson Fisk, and although he only makes a small appearance in a few episodes, it makes sense for the story that he only has a small part, seen as though he's incarcerated in prison, and although I would have liked to have seen him play a bigger part, he was the main villain of season 1, and if they had brought him back in a much larger role, he may have taken the spotlight away and the focus away from the Daredevil, Punisher and Matt Elektra storylines, so I can't complain too much. However, he does make a great impact in just the small appearance he has, and although we don't see him all that much, we're left wanting more from him, and a tease to a possible return to the Matt-Fisk conflict is just tantalising to say the least. Now on to negatives I don't have as many negatives, but in terms of criticism, I would say I don't think the season as a whole was as consistent as the first, but then saying that, I never got bored, and I don't think there were any episodes that let me down, per se. So, saying that it doesn't live up to its predecessor isn't really a fair criticism, I think, because season 1 was pretty flawless, if you think about it, and the fact that season 2 doesn't quite live up to it or surpass it isn't really unexpected and it isn't really a fair criticism, I would say, and I don't think that's a fair reason to criticise the season. Also, the Matt Elektra storyline took too much of a centre stage position for me, I would say. I did like the storyline overall. I just had much more of an interest in the Daredevil Punisher conflict, that started at the beginning of the season and kind of went away after Frank went to prison. However, I did like the other storylines, such as the Matt Elektra relationship and the inclusion of the Hand, even though the decision to make the Hand as the overarching villains of the entire season I don't think was entirely necessary, because we had such a great conflict there between Daredevil and Punisher that was never really picked back up and explored upon after Frank was sent to prison. Also, I don't think that the season finale was underwhelming at all, but I do think that the inevitable team up between Daredevil and Punisher came a little too late and didn't last all that long, when I think they had ample opportunity to bring the two of them back into conflict with one another and resolve the drama between the two of them, but they didn't really do that. They kind of instead diverted onto Matt, Elektra and Stick versus the Hand instead, which I didn't have anything against. But I just thought it would have been much better if the Punisher was somehow brought back into the main story and had teamed up with Daredevil in a slightly bigger capacity at the end there. So yeah, that is my review for Daredevil Season 2. Overall, I thought it was a great season. Now, was it as good as Season 1? I don't think so. I think Season 1 was better. But like I said, to say it wasn't as good as Season 1 isn't really a knock on this season, because this season was fantastic. There was so much to like about this series as a whole. Charlie Cox was once again great as Matt Murdock and Daredevil. We had the inclusion of the Punisher in there. Jon Bernthal as Frank Castle and the Punisher was just absolutely amazing. He did such a great job. We got Elektra in there as well. Really, I think there was enough to like about this season, and I like the fact that they tried to do something different. They didn't just do the same thing per se. They put new characters in there, they created new tensions, new drama, and I like that, they didn't just do the same thing they did before. It was slightly different, but at the same time, there was a lot of similarities to Season 1, which I liked. There was some more great fight scenes and some great action in there, some great character moments. So overall, even though I did prefer Season 1, and I think Season 1 was slightly better, I didn't really have any fair major criticisms to put on this season. So overall, I'm going to give Daredevil Season 2 5 stars. I was thinking about putting it down to 4 stars because I did give Season 1 5 stars, but I like this season so much, like I said, and there wasn't really anything that I really took against and really disliked, so I was like, I have to give it 5 stars. Sorry, I'm giving it 5 stars. So there we go, that wraps up my review for Daredevil Season 2. If you like this video, then make sure to click subscribe to see more, but for now, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.